Okay, great. So they were able to mitigate the issue of not having the information in time. Okay. So as we're going through this, we're going to go through some additional items for vision. We're going to talk about cascading vision. We're going to talk about VSPT, which is a model from the 90s that has been around for a long time. It's actually from West Point Military Academy. By the way, the Israeli elite forces also use VSPT as one of their leadership models, but they don't call it that. We're going to talk about the power of the one thing and how to link back up through the organization via cascading vision. We're going to talk about a few issues about communication. I alluded to this earlier, where we're going to be talking about language, the difference of languages, the issue of dilution of the vision as it works its way throughout the organization. And then we're going to talk about how to distill and really leverage the power of the one thing. Later, we'll be talking about the 4D and 4R models. We're going to talk about the flow formula, the flow friction analysis that is based on that formula. And then we're going to talk about the 4 lenses of transformation. As Dr. Burris pointed out in a recent blog post on his website about Agile not being able to stand on its own, same holds true for change management, waterfall, traditional, classic, lean, Six Sigma, Kanban, everything in between. I've sort of looked at this as a somewhat of a continuum. If you look at project management, change management, or Agile and Scrum, where it's more product management, if you're looking at these 3 types of management, traditional waterfall project management has between a 14 to 16% success rate. PMI Sweden, in cooperation with KPMG, have done a survey now for 4 or 5 years in Sweden. And I believe in 2016, their percent matched the Standish Chaos report or something along those lines from 5-6 years ago, that only 14% of projects actually succeed. And then the next year they did the poll, 2017, it was like up to 15%. And for 18 and 19 or something like that, it was at 16%, so it leveled off. And at its current rate of improvement, that means it will take Scrum, or not Scrum, it'll take traditional waterfall about 14, 15 years to catch up with change management and their success rate. And another, let's see, another 26%, 28%, 26 to 28% to catch up to the traditional waterfall. That's a lot of years at their current velocity. It's going to take a while. And we've been using this slide for a number of years to sort of show why this is how it is. And it's really a question of culture, and whether or not the culture enables these methodologies to really work. I think that's one of the biggest blockers. My view of why projects, programs, portfolios tend to fail over time is everybody gets together in the beginning, everybody has a really tight vision, and the leadership's vision and the team's vision are the same in the beginning, but then they diverge over time. And so each quarter they're getting further and further apart, And leadership is looking at changes in the marketplace, or they're seeing new things on the horizon and they want to make a course correction, and the project's gone a completely different direction. That's why changing vision, changing the culture is a journey. You have to align the leadership, the teams, the organization. You have your current vision, your future vision, your current culture, your future culture, where you are today versus where you want to be. And this is, I think, one of the toughest things to do is to keep everyone in alignment. So changing culture and changing the vision is a journey, and you do it one iteration at a time. And you do that by using the 4R model, the 4D model, all the things that we've been talking about with culture. It's a step-by-step process, and change and transformation is a journey, and you want to keep everybody together, moving the same direction, and make sure everybody's on the same page of music. And that this is perhaps one of the toughest things to do in leading any change or transformation that you're trying to do to your culture, and you do it by using vision. Now, cultures collide, and one of the primary reasons they collide is because of languages that they use. This is one example of where business and technology tend to collide. And on the business side, they're trying to look at things like governance and leadership and how do you integrate Agile into that. And the business side tends to speak one language, and the technology side tends to speak another. And the technology side has come up the curve relatively quickly on Agile, borrowing a lot of their principles from lean manufacturing. And so, in that sense, it shouldn't be that foreign to the business team members. But this is one of the key areas in which we have a collision. And that collision is primarily due to the different languages that they use when they're trying to communicate to each other. With flow and the flow leadership framework, flow leads with vision. And so in flow on the business side, we use cascading vision, cascading the VSPT from the executive senior management, portfolio to program, program to project, project to team, team to individual. And we're also going to talk about the power of the one thing in just a bit. And then most companies are to some extent able to cascade their vision throughout the organization. Where it becomes really difficult is getting a feedback loop and a link back between the individual back to the team level back to the project level if projects are used, then to the next level up behind it, and so on. And so we have a video, and I'll put the link for that one as well into the library that we have for this video series on learning how to use flow. On the scaling side, technology looks a lot at scaling, which is a very tool set view. I go into the difference between tool set and mindset thinking in the transformation slide deck that I've done for the training. So you'll want to take a look at that. But here we have safe, less, Scrum at scale, whatever. That's what they're trying to do for scaling. And they're trying to scale on top of what they're doing at the team level with Scrum, Kanban, XP, Scrum, Bond, hybrids, whatever. And so if you're not tying all of those things down below to a vision and a leadership framework up above, you're going to end up with a lot of friction and a lot of conflict in your organization. I wanted to include a quick pictorial of the difference between servant leaders and traditional bosses or managers. A leader is going to be out there in the front pulling with the team, and vision is going to pull everybody along as they're trying to move in this case, a boat over a bunch of logs that they're rolling down to the water. Now, in the traditional setup, you've got a boss who is sitting on top of the load, adding to the load, and it's only the boss that has the vision. And the team, their job is to pull. So again, it comes down to, does your walk match your talk? If you're a leader, you're going to be out front showing the way. If you're only a boss or a manager, you're just going to be delegating, telling people what to do, and even potentially getting into micromanagement of the team. It's very much an X versus Y theory of leadership. One of the things that Ted and I hit on very early, and we're not the first ones to come up with this, but keep it simple, the KISS principle. And if you want to get everybody moving in the right direction, you need to simplify, you need to distill, you need to get it down to what could be considered a best practice. And so this is why Ted and I were more pragmatists than purists regarding Agile or any methodology for that matter. It's basically, we were agnostic to those methodologies. Our goal was to create simple ways to get things done. And if you can do that, then you're already achieving best practice. I love this quote from Steve Jobs. Simplicity is the ultimate of sophistication. It's a really good quote, and it's very true. But he's not the one that really came up with the quote. We'll see that in just a second. It was actually our good old friend Leonardo da Vinci that came up with the original version of that, where he said, simplicity is the ultimate form of sophistication. So, with whatever you're doing, if you're able to draw it on a napkin, hand it to a person, and they can go start using it, you've pretty much achieved simplicity. And that's actually what we did. We took the Unified Vision Framework that we use in Flow, which is a combination of this triangle with vision in the middle, the 4D model, and the VSPT model. This captures a good portion of our framework. And we had this printed up on napkins, and we've actually passed those out in the past as sort of a fun thing for people to look at it and go, oh, yeah, it is that simple. Explained on a napkin and delivered to the enterprise. VSPT is Vision, Strategy, People, and Tasks. The line in between the VSPT is the disconnect that exists in every organization. And the VSPT is one of your first definitions because you need to start with vision. You need to have your vision first. And so then you start adding people with knowledge. And so we used to call that business content on the right side of the triangle there. And then you need people with the tools and technology experience to be able to help with the definitions. And traditionally, the business side and the technology side, they didn't communicate so great. And so that's why distill is at the bottom of the triangle, is you need to distill agreement between those two sides. And then they can start to deliver what's going to be useful in the way of a product, service, or result to the organization. Driving is linking back to the vision for each iteration. Are we one step closer to achieving the vision? So each iteration has a goal and an objective that should link to getting the team one step closer to delivering the vision. So the relationships are, we used to call that communication. If the relationships aren't there and aren't maintained in such a way and they break, then the right and left side of the triangles fall flat. And that's also why we put relationships up with on the drive side, because we're always linking everything back to what we're doing with vision. And so this is something that you can start to use immediately tomorrow in your work. You can look at your product backlog and go, oh, does our product backlog encompass the entire vision of what we're doing with the team and this product, service, or result? Do we have distilled agreement between the business content experts and the team, the Scrum team that's actually delivering? So on the knowledge side, that's probably going to be your product owner if you're thinking Scrum. And if on the tools side, you're looking at the Scrum team. Up there in relationships, you've got the Scrum Master, the facilitator, who's keeping all of the communication going and making sure that the team delivers, that we're double checking against the vision and driving and continuously defining, distilling, and delivering in an iterative process. But this is a leadership framework that sits above Scrum, and we're going to show that on another slide a little bit later.